Hello there, guys, and welcome back to Bro Founders Talk from Temi, an international software development company that designs, builds, and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. Today, we've got with us Thiago, the founder of LGG Advisors. Thiago, I didn't pronounce your surname there just because I know I will trip up on it. So could you just introduce yourself to our listeners and tell us just a little bit about you, not your businesses, which you've done so far, just a little bit about you to get to know the man behind the machine.
Sure, Matt. Thanks a lot for the invite. Very happy to be here in this chat with you. So very quickly about myself, I'm both Portuguese and British. I was actually born in the UK, but my family's Portuguese. So I lived my first years in the UK, then Portugal. But then I've as an adult, I've lived in many different countries. I've worked primarily in the financial services industry, and it's a sector I'm very passionate about, and this led me to create LGG Advisors, 6 years ago, which I'm sure we'll have a chance to speak a little bit more about.
Absolutely. Thiago, what I want to know, is there something that not many people know about you? Have you got a hobby that you like to do? What do you do in your pastime, which maybe not a lot of your employees or anyone out there knows about you?
Well, I'm a tennis fan.
Cool.
I would love that my skills in tennis matched my interest in tennis. It's not always the case, but I like tennis quite a lot.
Nice. Who is your favorite tennis player?
Well, I would have to go. If I have to choose someone, that is prominent today, I would say Alcaraz. If I would have to go back, a few years, I would say Federer.
Of course. I'm a big tennis fan as well, so I agree with you there. Okay, Thiago, let's ask you, let's start with a few kind of fast, quick fire, rapid questions. They will be yes, no, or one-word answers. And it will help me kind of form our conversation for the rest of this podcast today. So, are you a morning person?
Not really.
Team or independent?
Team, definitely.
Are you a risk taker?
Yes.
Is work-life balance, is it important to you?
Yes.
Do you enjoy networking events?
Can I answer yes and no? But I would say mostly yes.
Have you ever pivoted your business's model?
Yes, definitely.
Are you focused on more short-term or long-term goals?
Now, long-term. I can explain later why now long-term.
So at the beginning, more short-term, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you consider yourself a hands-on leader?
Yes.
And are you happy with this year's success so far?
I am. Yeah.
Okay. So not a morning person. What time does your day normally start? Walk me through your day in the life of Thiago.
No, I obviously wake up early because I need to attend meetings and so on. But I feel that I'm more productive in the afternoon. But I don't know. I usually wake up around 7:30. The normal things everybody does, and then start working around 8:30, 9. And there's usually a number of meetings in the morning. But I just feel that I'm more productive, more efficient towards the afternoon or evening.
Nice. I still haven't found the time that I'm most productive in. It changes by like the weather, to be honest, like the weather in the UK. Okay, you said work-life balance is important to you. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Okay, it's important for me and for my team, and it has been more and more important as years go by. And the reason for that is because I truly believe that people need to be happy doing what they're doing. Okay, if people are happy in their personal lives, it is more likely that they will be happy in their professional lives also. Okay, so firms need to find a way where they can be ambitious, where they can pursue their goals, where they can be fast-paced, but at the same time, find room for people to have an enjoyable personal life and feel happy, with their personal lives. From this balance, I believe, comes, more happy, productive people, and better teamwork and better work for clients. So I think it's in the interest of everybody.
When you were in the beginning stages of LGG Advisors, did you have a work-life balance there? Is it possible to have work-life balance in those, starting years?
Look, not so much. I did not have it so much. And the reason for that is easy to explain. First, when you're starting a business, it depends how you start the business. In our case, it was completely bootstrapped. So it was my own funds, no external investors, and nobody else to chip in money. So you obviously feel a pressure to have things kick off in the right way. So you tend to take more workloads. Not only that, but once you get a new client, once you get a new project, the effort is divided by a smaller number of people. So obviously there's more workload for each individual person. So it's harder to do that in the beginning. Yes, that's absolutely true. And I don't know what's the way around it. But as you grow, you can create mechanisms in your firm. You can create a structure that is properly staffed in such a way that you grow sustainably. And that's, I believe, what we've been doing, throughout the years.
So tell me a little bit more about your background, Thiago. What inspired you to establish LGG Advisors?
Sure. I think it's one of those typical situations where you test a service and then you want to do a better version of it. So I was a banker at Barclays in London. I was doing M&A with the TMT team. I had a great experience there. And there was a provider of corporate finance support, so corporate finance outsourcing that helped us, with numerous tasks. And what I realized at the time was, I think I can build a better version of this. That service provider was based out of India. There was all these issues with the difference in time zone and so on. So, my rationale was, if I put this out of Western Europe, I'll have, same time zone as the UK. I'll also access the same type of skill set that bankers in the UK expect. And therefore, I'll be able to create a team augmentation service rather than outsourcing. I believe that outsourcing and team augmentation are a little bit different. So rather than doing outsourcing, we can create a true team augmentation service where we expand the capacity of our clients, giving them flexibility, but still giving them also, some cost benefits by being located out of Portugal and Spain. But the true essence is, allowing these businesses to be flexible and working in parallel with them, integrated in their teams. You can only do that if you're working, in close proximity to them. And that's, what we've done. And I believe we've been successful in rolling out this concept.
So how did the years of COVID, how did that affect this kind of closeness of the team being able to do it in close proximity?
So ironically, COVID was actually good for us. It was terrible for the world in general, but for our business, it was actually quite good. Because I think COVID brought two things that didn't exist before. First of all, it brought a great deal of uncertainty, right? People didn't know what was going to happen tomorrow. Uncertainty and volatility. And the second thing is it's, in a certain way allowed for people to work remotely in different parts of the world without this being an issue. And the combination of these two things, being able to work remotely and, being able to provide a scalable solution that helps with the uncertainty of these businesses, we've been tremendously successful since the beginning of COVID. Because in essence, our service, what it does is it takes out the uncertainty out of our clients' hiring process. So the model in the past used to be for banks, private equity funds, or other financial services firms to hire an army of people when times were good, and then to fire an army of people when times were bad. But I don't think these firms want to pursue this model anymore. And they would rather have a fixed layer of internal employees, and then have a service like ours that provides them that extra bandwidth that they can adjust, with flexibility And this, is much better than just having to go through the nightmare of, hiring and firing people all the time. So I think, that was, the two main reasons why I think we've been very successful since COVID.
Thiago, tell me a little bit more about the journey that you've been on for the last 6 years. Obviously, a lot has happened in those 6 years, including COVID and many other things. A lot of development in the tech world. What has been the biggest notable development which you have seen over these from the years you've started having some kind of MVP, your original MVP, which obviously you said about your business model, you have pivoted to nowadays? What has been the biggest rock the boat moment?
So, this is a ever-changing world, right? We need to pay attention to what's happening, and I would say that every week, every month, there's changes, even if incremental changes. I would say that artificial intelligence is indeed a big game shifter in this industry, but it can be good or bad depending on where you are. So let me explain. If you think of this kind of services as a line that goes from the more commoditized type to the more sophisticated and higher added value. Okay, if you are providing these services on the more commoditized side, you might eventually be replaced by AI, because this means that you're not adding value. You're just putting in hours, human hours that can be replaced by computer hours. Okay, but there's no real insight, or there's no real added value that is provided to the client, and so it's more replaceable for a machine. If you're on the other side of the spectrum, if you are providing insight and added value, AI, rather than replacing your job, will actually help you in your job, because AI will be a tool that will help you be more efficient, more productive, help you gather more information, help you, build a bigger foundation quicker on, that you can then work on. So, what we always need to be mindful is, for us to, be successful in this industry, we need to be on obviously the insight and added value side of that line, right? If that is the case, not only I don't think we're going to be disrupted, but I think with this, these new technologies will actually help us, and I think we've been doing a good job, in terms of taking advantage of these technologies to help us in our day-to-day work with clients.
Tell me a little bit more about that. So how are you going to be using these new technologies over the next year or so to advance what you're doing there?
So we have a digital team, very resourceful and smart people. And what they're doing right now is they're, doing several API connections to the different AI platforms out there. And they're embedding the results of the different, searches or different information or data that we need. They're embedding it in our, research process, to help us save time and to help us, gather, bigger and more relevant pieces of information. And that obviously helps us just get, a head start, if you wish. So we've made quite a few advancements there. I think there's still a lot we can do in terms of how we embed this technology in our service. But what I've seen so far is very encouraging.
Tell me a little bit more about how LGG Advisors is operating as a strategic thought partner for its clients. How does this benefit them?
So again, assuming you are on the right side of that line that I described, if you're assuming that you are producing insights, that you are bringing value to the client, you are saving time to the client. Okay, this means that you are helping the clients, further their knowledge in a specific field or area, and this in turn is helping them, provide their advisory services to their clients. Okay, so let's think of it this way. The better job we do, the greater likelihood that our client will be doing a better job with their client also. And that's what they're looking for, right? They're looking for partners that can help them in this strategic thought process. So let's say we're working with an investment bank or an advisory firm, and they have a mandate for a deal, and we're helping them on this deal. The more we can help them in this thought process of, finding the right buyer or finding the right target to buy, the better job they'll do with their clients and the greater likelihood there will be of this transaction to close. So I think this is a chain where everybody needs to contribute, and the more each of us contributes, the better the output.
Let's talk a bit about your experience, your personal experience over the years. I see obviously it's not only LGG Advisors that you are heading up as well. You're also on the board of, let me see if I can remember it and find it here. I've got on my list somewhere.
Wine with Spirits.
Yes, exactly. Wine with Spirits. Tell me, firstly, how do you find time for these extra kind of adventures as well? And talk to me. How do you find time for this?
The Wine with Spirit is a very interesting concept. I'm not an executive board member. I'm just I'm a shareholder, and I'm in the advisory board. So it actually does not take much of my time. The CEO occasionally wants to have a chat with me to discuss, several ideas he has, but he's the one leading the ship. I don't have much intervention there. But it's a very interesting concept. It's a concept that puts together wine with emotions or events. So it's wine that is made for specific emotions or situations or events. The more traditional wine, we used to say that there's that it pairs with food, right? This more conceptual or lifestyle wine pairs with emotions. So they basically build those wines, for certain specific emotions, situations, events. It's a very interesting concept, and I think people have enjoyed it, over the past years.
Thiago, tell me a little bit more about your challenges. What has been the biggest challenge you have faced as an entrepreneur, founder, over the last 6 years with you being at LGG Advisors? What has been the biggest challenge? I think, not business-wise.
I think that, there's two things you need to be ready for. And this was the case with me. First is you need to be ready to do a little bit of everything. In the beginning, when you start a business and assuming that you start from scratch, the title of CEO doesn't really mean much, because you're doing a little bit of everything. You're helping with hiring people, you're helping with strategy, you're helping with business development, but also you're helping with admin tasks. You're helping with pretty much everything, right? So be prepared to do a little bit of everything. I think is important. Being flexible and adaptable can certainly help. The second thing is, be resilient. Businesses have ups and downs, and with startups, in many cases more downs than ups. But you just need to be resilient and persistent. And if you really believe in your idea, you should stick to it and try to make it work as hard as you can. And ultimately, this doesn't happen always, of course, but ultimately, if you have a good product or service, if clients like you, and if you enjoy what you're doing, I believe you'll ultimately be successful and be able to get to that stage where you have your proof of concept and you're able to scale up, and just grow rapidly. So we're in that phase. We've passed the proof of concept phase, and now we're in a very quick, rapid, scale up phase.
So you said that about you need to believe in, if you believe in your product, you can make it work. You need to make it work. But what if, there are times where you can believe in your product and still it not be the product that people need? When is it time to call it quits and to start rethinking the idea?
Look, the most obvious answer is when your cash runs out, right? I think that's the most obvious answer. I think you also need to be very honest with yourself. I think you need to be persistent, resilient, as I mentioned, but also very honest with yourself. I cannot put a timeline there because I think this depends very much from industry to industry, from product to product or service to service. There are products or services that have a greater initial investment and take longer to ramp up, others less. And so it depends, how long it takes you to get to that proof of concept phase. But if you're taking very long to get to the proof of concept phase, where you have market adoption, where you have clients interested in buying your product or service and, giving you good feedback for it, then you need to reconsider your options, right? Because if there's no market adoption, there's nobody for you to sell this. And ultimately, company won't survive by itself without clients.
Henry, the last question for you here. We were talking earlier about AI and the technologies which you were going to utilize in order to put LGG Advisors ahead. What are you expecting and what are you hoping over the next year? You said you had a successful year. You're happy with it so far. What are you looking to do where do you want to be in this time in 1 year's time?
Well, a couple of goals we have. First of all, we're the leader for team augmentation in corporate finance services out of Western Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we're mostly focused today on the UK market, but I would love to, deepen our ties to the US market. So, ideally we would have a presence in the, a stronger presence in the US, stronger foothold in the US, because it's a market that is, very much aligned with what we do, and it's a huge market for financial services. So one, I would say, definitely deepen our presence there. Another one would be, we have created a number of services in the meantime that are complementary to corporate finance, and such as digital, creative and design, valuation services, and others. And we would obviously like to see these businesses ramp up quickly. And I think ultimately the goal for us would be to be a global one-stop shop service for team augmentation business services, which we already are in a smaller scale, but I would love us to be able to do that, at a broader scale.
Nice. Perfect. Thiago, I think that's a very nice way to finish our conversation today. Thank you for coming on Break Founders Talk and for letting me pick your brain in everything that you're doing at LGG Advisors. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Matt. Pleasure to be here.